Special meeting to order. Sorry, Greg. And if, let's do roll call first. Kelsey?
Here.
Jenny?
Here.
Merle? Here. Heidi? Hello.
Class.
Heidi?
He's there.
He's there. I wonder if she doesn't have. You count her as a yes, but. We figure out the technical issues first. Crystal,
Here.
and obviously I'm here, so Chair's here, so. Heidi, you want to give us a wave if you can hear us? Maybe she's got her audio down. All right, we'll move on. If you guys would all join me in a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A couple of thank yous before we start. Thank you, Diane, for helping organize. Thank you for Bill for helping collaborate. Thanks you guys for actually being here in person on short notice. Appreciate that. And to our other guests who are online, appreciate you guys making the time and taking the energy to get here and give us a presentation. So a few ground rules. I'd envisioned the presentation on your guys' side to be about 10 minutes and then 10 minutes of question and answer. I would like every board member the opportunity to ask questions. So before the second follow-up question is asked, I would appreciate if everybody else in the group has an opportunity to at least ask the question first. So beyond that, have I missed anything, Diane? No. Okay. So she said we could reorder and have you guys from Human Capital go first, since you guys are here in person, if that's agreeable to you. Sure. All righty.
All right, thank you for having us.
Let me launch the deck here.
He launches all this stuff. We're Steve Webb, Christy Perry from Human Capital Enterprises, and the CEO of our company sends his best wishes for you with the search process. As he couldn't be here today, and we're both associates with the firm and have lots of experiences. And now you've got it launched, so you get to go.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. On behalf of Hank, thank you for the honor of presenting and the potential of partnering with your school system and the board in selecting your next exemplary leader. My name is Steve Webb. I have 36 years of service in public education, the last 15 serving as superintendent successor of the Vancouver, Washington Public Schools. That's America's Vancouver. Retired in 2021. And for the past 3 years have been working with Hank and Human Capital Enterprises, doing executive searches. I'm going to ask Christy to just do a quick self-introduction and then we'll get right into the deck.
So Christy Perry, and if I seem familiar, I'm from Salem Kaiser and also from Dallas, Oregon. So I currently still live in Dallas, Oregon, and was a superintendent there prior to going into Salem. So I have 18 years as an Oregon superintendent, all within this kind of catch basin area of Polk and Marion counties. So I'm retired and new and love a good school bell. How about that? And have been begun working with Human Capital with the search process, in part because I believe so deeply in the power of leadership and how important it is to our students across Oregon to get the right leaders in the school districts. So you'll see our values. Our values are around excellence. We promise we will exceed your expectations. We have expertise. We're a human capital company. We know how to do this work. We know how to hire both from the superintendent and executive leadership in multiple organizations. Integrity, we do what we say. We let you guide us. If you ask us to do something, we'll do what you ask and we'll adapt our process in order to meet the needs of your school district. We do have joy in this. You can tell we do this work because we deeply care about Oregon students and about public education. And there's nothing better for me than to show up in a community and be with the board as they're making this important selection. One of the most important jobs you've got to do.
And I would just add quickly, we do what we say. Your staff is extremely busy. So when you partner with Human Capital Enterprises, we do the work. We don't offload that to staff who already have really full plates. We exceed expectations. We are exceptional in execution. So we're very detailed oriented, which serves you well in terms of getting the process right in the search and selection phase.
So every search is unique and the launch of this will be kind of at your hands and how you want to move through it if you hire human capital. We know that your goal is to hire an extraordinary new leader, and we also know that you're on an expedited timeline. So if you said human capital is it today, we would be coming tomorrow to say, okay, let's plan the next step in this process, because what we know is that on this expedited timeline, we got to start very quickly, and we know how to do that. We know both how to have elongated timelines depending on when a superintendent makes the change to whatever's next, and we know how to do it this expedited way, and we've done it across a number of districts.
And I just want to anchor one piece. This is not a truncated process. It'll be expedited. It'll be thorough. Our approach is to rigorously vet candidates. That's our recommendation to the board. So know that even when you have a compressed time frame, our approach will ensure that every step of the process is executed with integrity.
This next slide just shows you some of the pieces of and the places we work and the leaders we've helped select. I got to really watch up close and personal last year as Human Capital was a search firm in Salem Keizer to select my predecessor. And what I'll tell you is what they said they would do, they did. And whether the engagement, this is what we're going to do, this is what they did. And they did as much as possible to take the burden off of staff in order to get the engagement, to get to the right groups. I was always like, what about this group? And they would adapt as the board or somebody needed within the district. But long track record of success and lots of searches under our belt.
And both Christy and I are well connected in the Pacific Northwest. We have relationships all over Washington and Oregon, professional associations, colleagues. We also have, of course, national connections and networks that we activate as we partner with districts, depending upon the scope of the search defined in our planning meeting with the board. So I want to just talk briefly about our process. And again, it's tailored to the unique needs of every board that we work with. And you have a very aggressive timeline with 9 weeks to execute on, in essence, 5 phases of our search process. Of course, the planning phase happens immediately upon selection, and we want to get after it as quickly as possible so that we can get the posting posted, certainly in Oregon and Washington. But if you desire to get it posted nationally, we can expedite that in terms of our communication and advertising efforts. All of our processes include 4 common activities. First, extensive community engagement overlaid with a communication plan, because that's part of community engagement. Board member one-on-ones, key stakeholder one-on-ones, focus groups. You've read the proposal. We've identified 10 focus groups. We work with the board to identify what voices need to be heard in order to respond to 3 questions. What are the strengths of North Marion School District? What are the challenges that the successor superintendent might face? And what are the desired skills, attributes, leadership dispositions desired in the next superintendent of schools? All of that helps create an executive summary of the constituent engagement. We use that to inform prospects because they're going to ask us questions about the state of the affairs. And then secondly, the outcome is to identify in a document the next superintendent criteria. And we use that in an effort to first to actively recruit candidates that fit that profile. And then secondly, as part of our deliberation and selection process, it provides a reference point that anchors the board on this is what we're looking for in the next superintendent of schools. We overlay a communication plan and we work with either district staff or we offer a communication support in order to provide timely communication releases at key mileposts in our search process in order to keep the entire community informed about the status of the search. Secondly, we activate our professional networks for recruiting. I referenced this in some of our comments earlier, but we're well known and often it's through those relationships and the activation of networks that allow us to build a very deep and talented pool of applicants for the board to consider. We use multiple means of outreach and advertising. We maintain our own listserv. We have 40,000 subscribers across the country to that listserv. And it's interesting, we get lots of feedback from people about our messaging, our voice, and often that approach is certainly, in our opinion, allows us to connect with colleagues, not just in the Pacific Northwest, but all across the country. And then finally, we recommend a rigorous vetting and selection process. Our standard search process includes 4 interviews. Interviews by the firm, first round interview with the board, a community stakeholder interview panel, and then a second round of interviews with finalists. And again, we anchor all of that deliberation against the next superintendent criteria. This table was in our proposal, and I just typically our search timeline is somewhere between 3 and 4 months. So this is cutting in half, which is why you see the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase of our process all squeezed into April. All right. So our planning phase, our stakeholder engagement phase, the focus groups, the online survey, all of that is happening simultaneously. We would recommend posting immediately upon selection so that we can begin activating our professional networks and begin recruiting potential prospects, applicants as quickly as possible. The recruitment window is identified there, April 3rd through May 12th. And again, once the position closes, we would then begin developing a slate for the board to consider given the number of applicants. And then we spend time with the board in a closed session to identify which of those recommended preliminary interviews should be advanced for first round interviews with the board. The selection phase is compressed also. just a bit, because you have a June 10th announcement expectation that was published in your RFP. If there's flexibility on that, we might have a little bit more time in terms of sequencing, first round interviews, community interview, and then second round interviews. But again, once we're selected, we would want to schedule time with the board. Again, this is a proposed timeline, and we would finalize that with the board together.
Just a couple comments. Each step of this process, we help you with. So when you get to interviews, you don't have to come with a blank slate on what do you need for interview. We help you with every step of it. Of course, all of it's your decision, but ultimately we want to come with help and structure for you along the way so that you can then take here's some recommended questions, make them your own, put them up against your superintendent criteria. And all along the way, we're here to dig in and do the work with you and to make your job about the selection of the person. And honestly, you're a great district and you're gonna have a great applicant pool. So we just gotta get going. Anyway, thank you for having us here today, and I think we're ready to open up for questions.
Thank you. I guess we can go around. Do you want to start out, Kelsey, if you have questions? No? Danny?
Yeah, of course I do. Do I ever not? So in your proposal, you mentioned that there would be 5 to 8 preliminary candidates that you guys would screen. How many would you recommend coming to an interview with us?
We typically in the first round recommend somewhere between 5 and 6 and no more than 7.
That would come to the board for an interview?
Correct, for
Okay.
the first round interviews. And then depending upon performance and depending upon all of the referencing that we do in advance of
Mhm.
those interviews, you would then determine who to advance as finalists. Typically, finalists engage in a community stakeholder interview. That's an option. And then, of course, you receive all of that feedback from the stakeholder panel before you actually sit down and interview the finalists in the second round. Typically, you get questions that individuals might want you to probe a bit, or there's something that you're wondering about that you want to explore more in detail
Mhm.
with an applicant. But that's why we insert that community stakeholder panel in between the first and then second round with the board.
You have a question, Rob?
Well, yes, I have more than one, but several. That your last comment raised just a kind of spontaneous question, but you said you're a good district, you're a good school district. Have you studied us?
Yeah, I have the opportunity to look, to have been close to you. And I know about your continuity of leadership with, and then as Ginger retired, to have Bill step in here. So that stability of leadership is what I really look at as, really, critical, because you've seen just a lot of districts that have that turnover, and that really looks as something, people will wonder about. The rural community, I believe you have a community that supports you. And then just the opportunity of smaller and a superintendent can kind of get their hands around this district and just love the district, which I think is why you got Bill to stay.
Certainly smaller than Salem Kaiser.
A little bit, yeah.
You mentioned Oregon, Washington first. I'd be interested in your comments on the significance of local recruiting versus nationwide.
Yeah, oftentimes, we take direction from the board with respect to whether or not to focus on a regional search or a much more broad national search. If the board does not have a specific interest in mind, know that we would focus on a national, but really concentrate our recruitment efforts in the Pacific Northwest.
I think I can see some reasonableness in that. And I just wanted to confirm that you do include interviews one-on-one with board members?
We do. Every single board member, often we will do a one-on-one with the executive assistant to the superintendent. Sometimes districts have a deputy superintendent that will do a one-on-one. All of that helps inform our understanding of the context of the community and of the system.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heidi, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Great to hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have a couple questions. How much in this process are you in person? Will you actually be in meetings with us?
Most of the one-on-ones are done virtually, focus groups are done virtually. First round interviews are done virtually. I prefer doing a community stakeholder panel interviews in person. Second round interviews, of course, in person. We know that we have an obligation to present the slate of candidates to the board. That is done in person. When we present the next superintendent criteria to the board, that is also done in person. And the advantage, of course, with having Christy and myself assigned to the team is in the event that you had interest in having us in person for some other event or activity connected to the search process, we're close by. It's a 40-minute drive for me. And I think
Same, almost, or, yeah, almost identical.
Okay,
what we've learned from the pandemic is much of the work can be done virtually, and it creates some economies and efficiencies, particularly for applicants too, so that they're not traveling distances for first round interviews. That saves costs associated with streamlining the search for the board, etc.
okay. Can you also tell me about what a focus group is and how that is employed?
So focus groups are groups of about 6 to 8 individuals. You will help us choose, do we want to staff a teacher focus group? Do we want a classified focus group? Do you want us to do a focus group with your labor association leaders, community? And then what we do is we, sometimes they're lottery based, sometimes they're appointed, because you'll say, no, we want you to do a focus group with our union leaders. And then we will have about 40 minutes together and we ask them the 3 questions. What are you proud of? What makes North Marion great? What are the challenges the new superintendent is going to face? And then we switch it to say, what are the leadership dispositions that you want in a new superintendent? What's important to you about who the person is, what experiences they've had? We take notes at the end of all of the focus groups. We then take that and build it into themes. And that's what helps us with the next superintendent criteria. We keep them all confidential. If they're lottery based, people don't know who are in them. And it's just a great way. And it's actually kind of a bit of a roadmap for you to also do some listening through us as a board. And we'll present that to you, both the themes and then our first draft of the criteria, which you will also help inform. You'll look at it and say, don't think this is quite the right place here. Let's fix that a little bit. But that's how it goes from focus group to next superintendent criteria. And we'll help manage that with your direction on the groups you want us to engage with.
I have one final question. Who determines the final 5 or 6?
The board.
And how is that? So
We
That's
facilitate.
after we've looked, you give us all the applications and we review them. Is that how that works? And then we
Correct.
meet in an open or closed session?
That's in a closed session.
The search firm does an initial screening interview with, the search firm takes all of the applicants, does an initial screening interview, and then gives you our recommendation for who you interview, but you can also look at every single applicant. So you can see every single applicant and say, no, you should, we think we want to pull this one forward too, but ultimately your decision. And in our screening interviews, we'll give you a transcript of the screening interview. So we try to do the work, but make it as accessible to you as possible.
So
Okay.
all.
Just let me give Crystal an opportunity.
Information to us.
Crystal, do you have questions you wanted to present to?
Well, I think Heidi and I were secretly like in the same room, but so I'll just follow up on a couple things she said. So I just want to determine that the board is the one that selects the focus groups and what focus groups we want. And then the second part of the question was, when you say you will vet candidates, what does that look like?
We conduct an initial reference on every applicant that we are bringing forward to the board. In addition, between the first round and finalist stage, once the board identifies finalists, we typically engage board directors in doing a deep dive of references on each of the finalists. Typically, that involves 5 to 7 different conversations. Often, the board chair will speak to the board chair in all of the districts that the finalists currently are employed in. But we work at identifying those roles, identifying those people, and then we work at providing that information for the board so that the board can conduct deep reference calls on finalists. We also recommend to boards that you contract with a third party to do a comprehensive background check of each of the finalists. Those typically take 10 days. Given the compressed timeline, we'll have to manage that expectation carefully. But we've navigated that with other district partners in the past, and often boards will make a contingent offer dependent upon a successful background screen. So it's an opportunity, and of course, what we do is but even before we bring candidates to the board with the initial slate, we'll do a media search too, online media search. So that if in fact there's an untoward story somewhere, you'll have that information in advance of your deliberation as a board in the slate meeting as you identify first round interviewees.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the board decides the focus groups and we have the ability to see everyone who's applied if we decide to bring somebody in that wasn't originally brought forth as a 5 or 6, that there's
Correct.
a transparency process. Perfect, thank you.
Did you have a follow-up, Merle? Before we move on? Merle, did you have a follow-up before we move on?
I'm thinking here, and for me, that's hard work. I think that's all the pressing things I had. You partly answered it when I'm concerned about the time frame, and you've addressed that. I think I'm hearing you say we can still make that work because we're interested in a long-term permanent situation if we can find it, but not at the expense of being foolish.
Right.
We're pretty confident we can get across the finish line. Mhm.
Do you
All
have
right.
experience with a short timeframe? Yeah,
Yes, I just completed a search last June where Human Capital Enterprises was awarded a contract at the end of May. We placed an interim superintendent in the role by the third week of June, and then immediately launched a successor search. The board chose to select the interim superintendent as their sole finalist for the permanent superintendent role. So 3.5 weeks from getting the contract and placing an experienced superintendent who wanted to relocate to the Yakima Valley. All right.
I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and.
Mhm.
Glenn,
and,
I'm sorry, it's Crystal. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go for it.
Was there a max that we would be spending with you? I didn't know if there was a cap on the cost figures.
Our proposal is 16,800. The community stakeholder panel is an additional $2,100.
Okay,
Of course, there may be some travel related expenses for finalists. Of course, we won't know that until
right.
you identify who the finalists are. Our expenses in terms of our travel costs is just simply mileage.
Okay.
Unless you decide that you want to do multiple nights or days of interviews that would require us to be here in person.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We want to wish you
Glenn?
the very, sorry,
Sorry,
Crystal.
Glenn, I have to grab a new pen. Sorry, that one's dying.
On behalf of Christy and Hank Harris, we just want to wish you the very best, regardless of the outcome of this decision. We care deeply about public schools, public education, and Oregon schools. And this is a wonderful opportunity to get the next exemplary leader to lead this community. You've got an ambitious strategic plan. We know it's getting refreshed next year. So you want a strategic leader to help you navigate that context. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I will, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
You know who's coming next?
Breakthrough, I believe. We'll follow the agenda. As it was going, so. Actually, that's gonna be, or Rob, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Rob, are you available with your microphone?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
All right.
So welcome, and I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm gonna jump right in here and share some slides with you. And hopefully you can see
Yep, we can see that just fine.
on your screen my lead slide. Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to share with you what a search would look like with Breakthrough Consulting. And I want you to remember that you are who you hire. This is the most important decision you'll make as a board. And so we understand that, and we work with you so that you're really pleased with whoever you hire and the person has the best chance for success. So how can you increase your chance for success? Well, work with us, conduct a search with Breakthrough. And the reason why our searches are custom designed to what your needs are. So we have we go with a menu option, which means you pick and select what portions you want to do for a scope of a search. I put together for you in your packet a timeline of recommended activities. And but those are up to if you want to do something different, or if you want to adjust something, we'll work with you all along the way to do that. And if your timeline is I think it's about 3 months, which is plenty of time for us to do a complete search. We did one last year in North Bend in about 60 days, a full search. And so that's plenty of time to organize all of these activities, and we've posted them out there for you. So if we're selected, we'll begin right away with interviews with board members. And we would want to get those conducted as soon as possible so that we could get your job description built out and have your public hearing on the characteristics and qualities you're looking for, come up with a custom application for you, and then immediately start recruiting. So what makes our searches different? Well, we understand who we're working for. That's you, the board. And so it's our goal to understand what your needs are, what you're looking for, and then try to find someone that'll be a good fit for that. So you control the process and you determine the scope of work that you'd like done and in timeframes and your cost. And then we provide the expertise. So the expertise that we're going to be able to, you'll have a team of at least 2 experienced superintendents with human resources background supporting you all along the way, from the initial recruitment to assigned contract. The other thing that we offer is our searches are guaranteed. And what that means is we will work with you until you find a candidate that you're happy with. And so we don't believe in failed searches. We believe that we're not done yet. And so in our experience, we've done multiple searches and some take a little bit longer. If the first round, they didn't get someone that they liked, but we kept working with them until they were pleased. So we believe so strong in our work that we'll guarantee our searches. All right. Why is our process really strong? It's because we're going to build a plan that's tailored to your community. So in the timeline that we put together, you can see these 3 phases: recruitment, interviews, and selection. And each phase has a particular activity plus how long that will take. And we will project manage this just like we're building a house, or do to make sure that all the steps are covered and everything's done and you get the candidate that you're looking for. One of the things that we do is we believe in including everyone and have a real transparent process. And so we do a community engagement survey. So anyone in the community can participate and share what they're thinking and feeling. And we'll analyze that for you and we'll provide you a report on that. So you'll know, you won't be guessing, or only a few people will get input. Everyone will have an opportunity to provide input through that engagement survey. And that would be something that would get posted on your website and pushed out to families and staff and parents, so that you'll have a real good view of what you're looking for in your next leader. And we'll use that data to design custom questions for you. We'll use that data to screen the applicants. You'll see every application that applies. Whoever on your team wants to be a part of the screening group can be. We've had some districts where every board member wanted to be on screening, and some where of just a couple wanted to do that. Other places, the board said, "Well, you screen and bring us the results," but we leave that up to you, however you want to do that. And we would, the first thing we'll do is come out in a board meeting, work with your team in an open session to decide all of those things. Okay. So that's the timeline and the process. We do training for all of the people that are involved in the screening so that they will screen fairly and without bias, and you'll get the results of all that. And then in our last search over there in Crook County, I think we had over 10 people from different parts of the country that applied for that position, high quality candidates, and they ended up selecting someone from Texas that we're very pleased with. So this is the process that we go through. It's pretty self-explanatory. We also believe in a visitation day that anyone in the community should have an opportunity to meet and greet potential candidates and provide their feedback on those candidates. We think that that's important for their success going forward and for the board's success going forward. So we provide that wide open visitation day. And this is just one example of the detailed detailed questions that you'll get from the community survey, will you be able to identify what it is that, that the person should focus on, and that will help us drive the decisions around interview questions and also around good fit for you. Okay, so you'll have all that data be a part of the survey. In addition, we believe in a visitation day open to the public so that your finalists, whether you have 2, 3, and 1, North Bend last year, we had 4 finalists that people got to meet and greet and provide the board feedback on. Now, ultimately, it's the board's decision in closed session who they pick, but we think it's important that you know how your community feels about potential candidates. And we'll also build you a custom flyer, and this flyer will have the QR code for the survey. It'll have links to the application. It'll have the timeline. Everything's transparent and fully informed. So this is an example of one we did for Lowell last year. And we've got great references everywhere we've worked, and I provided a list of those in the packet. You're welcome to call and contact any of those folks, and plus other people that we've been able to work with. And I definitely want to keep the presentation on time. So within 10 minutes here, remember, you have one job to do as board members. And when this is over, you want your community feeling and thinking that you did a great job. And we'll help make that happen for you. And questions?
Thank you. Kelsey, do you have any questions? Or do you want me to stick around?
Yeah.
Okay, how about Jenny?
I do. I want to ask you about the community survey. When that's done, is that done to where you can respond anonymously?
Yes. Yep. 100%. Yeah. That people can respond anonymously. Sometimes we, based on the board's feedback, we may have a question in there where someone, would you like to be a part of the screening team? And someone can say, yes, I'd like to be a part of it. And then they could provide their name. When we were in North Bend, we had that question in the survey, and they had over 50 people want to be a part of the screening. And then in a board meeting, the board selected who they wanted to participate in that screening group. So board controlled the process from start to finish on who was in what part of it. But we use the survey to find interested people.
Go ahead.
Okay, my other question was that the data that you use from that survey to screen the applicants and create questionnaires. Can you talk to me about what that screening process looks like when the decision is really the board's on who we want to see?
Yeah, it's basically what happens is the screeners, when they look through the application materials, which would include a cover letter, resume, any custom questions you want them to write to, that you may have a few things you want them that you're really interested in as a board. We'll come up with those. We'll come up those custom questions for the application. So you get to see how they feel and think about those topics. And the screeners will score the applicants with a rubric, and they'll get a number of, each person will get a number of points. And when you have enough people doing that, you'll see patterns of people that score high, middle, and low. And then the board just takes that information and then makes their decision, right? So it's still the board's decision, but you get feedback and input regarding that decision.
Thank you. That's great.
Earl, did you have questions?
You mentioned there would be 2 superintendents assigned. What is the size of the pool of superintendents where you choose who is assigned to us?
I have people that I work with that have worked with me that know my process. So I don't have a big group of people that I pick from. I have people that I trust that I worked with. So it'll be me and one or 2 others. I believe I included the resumes in the packet.
There were several resumes included. I don't think yours was among them.
Well, it should have been.
I did actually see all the resumes in there.
as to the cost, you list several options. What would be the maximum cost if we chose the
I think-
options? You
Yeah, I think,
listed?
yeah, the top end cost would be 10,000, I think is the top end cost. I think that was on the proposal. That's if you did the survey and visitation day and all the components that I'd recommend. So the range is 5 to 10.
Mhm.
Heidi, do you have questions?
Yes, do you help with contract development negotiation once a superintendent is selected?
I can do that. I have done that. I believe that any contract negotiation should be a win-win scenario where the board's happy and the candidate's happy, because that's how you're going to have a successful superintendent, right? So, you know, I have done that before. A lot of new superintendents, when they get hired, have a third-party person that they bring in, is someone they've worked with before. I know sometimes boards have an attorney that they like them to do it. So we're open to whatever you need.
And the people that are selected to help us, you said 2 superintendents, those are people who will be with us during the interviews, who will be helping
Yeah.
maybe guide us or giving us, you give us guided questions and so forth.
Yeah, we're with you in the interviews. We're with you every step of the way. There isn't any activity that you'll do that we're not there. And then I would ask for one of your board members to be my point of contact person that I'll be calling. And that might be board chair or someone else that you nominate. But I would need one board member point of contact person, and then also someone with the district that I can reach out to just to you know, help get this link posted, that sort of thing. Is we do all the work, but we do want someone at the district office that we can work with to make sure things get in the board packets, etc.
Crystal, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you. Will the survey that's available for the community be able to be bilingual?
Yeah, we can translate that. We have translated those before. So if that's something that is that's a priority. And I know your community has a lot of Spanish speaking folks in it. So that's something that we can do.
Excellent. And then my follow-up question was on the visitation day, are we able to have more than one finalist come and visit?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
whatever the board picks.
Okay,
We'll do the rounds of interviewing, and then you might have 2, you might have 3, you might have we've done up to 4, which is a little complicated, but you know, if you've got people that are really close and you want feedback on multiple, we can facilitate that.
excellent. And like Jenny said, some of our community prefers to answer anonymously, so that would definitely be a need that we would have along with bilingual in any surveying.
Yeah, when we do the visitation day, we always, anyone who participates, they're able to provide feedback. We create an electronic survey for them to do that, and they can provide that anonymously.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Back to you, Kelsey. Did you have anything you wanted to add? No, okay.
One more,
Go
I'm
for it,
sorry. Can you talk to me what your comprehensive reference checks entail?
Yeah, we do a couple of different rounds of referencing. We do electronic references where we have candidates tell us people that know of their work and have worked with them, and then we get electronic references from them. And then we also do kind of what we call deep dive reference calls, where we call people who may or may not be on their list. And we have a script of questions that we ask, and we write up those written reports for you. So you see all of that. In addition, we do a electronic background check of anyone that is a finalist at the end, so that you'll know if there's any issues, either legally or licensure wise, anything along those lines. We
Thank
use a third party service for that.
Glenn, I do have one more question. I'm sorry. I
Go ahead.
assume within that third party look, there's a criminal background check
Yep.
placed on
Yep.
all. Okay,
Criminal lawsuits.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Licensure, all of it.
All right, well, very much appreciate, did you have another one?
No.
Okay. I very much appreciate you taking the time and coming, or not coming here, but meeting with us on, especially on short notice. So we will certainly keep you informed as to, where the or what direction the board goes.
Hey, appreciate that and appreciate your services as board members and in public education. It's a noble work and very, very important. So thank you for doing that and reaching out and getting help to find your next leader. Great. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Robert.
Take care, Rob.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
I'm gonna stop the share here. I forgot that was on the share the whole time.
He's been in for fall. So he's up there. Okay. He's been, so he's part of.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
so do we still have Doug with us? Ready to go from McPherson and Jacobson? Ah, there you go. Yep,
I'm here.
turn the video on. Cool.
Yeah.
So I will go ahead and turn it over to you and let you do your presentation. I appreciate you being here.
Hi, Bill.
How you doing, Doug?
Oh, good. Very happy to be here this afternoon to share and to explain the services that McPherson and Jacobson provides to school districts in search of a new superintendent. I'm going to start sharing my screen because it'll keep me on task so I can make sure we get through the process. Let me just get one more thing here. Slideshow, play from start. There we go. We put together a comprehensive proposal for you, and the two people who would be working with you would be myself and Mike Scott. I'm a retired superintendent, 19 years superintendent in both the state of Washington and in Oregon. I retired from being the superintendent in the Ben Lapine School District. I'm also a school board member. I previously served 2 terms with the High Desert ESD board, and now I'm on the Columbia Gorge ESD board. And during my tenure with High Desert, I was the president of the Oregon School Boards Association. Mike is a recently retired superintendent from the Hillsborough School District. I started working with our firm last year, and he has an extensive network throughout the state because he's worked with the new superintendent cohort and through COSA, and through his other work has a tentacle and a network throughout the rest of the state, And because of my work in both Washington and Oregon, I have a lot of Northwest connections. And I started with McPherson and Jacobson about 5 years ago. One interesting factoid about both Mike and I, we both hired Bill Rhodes sometime during his tenure. So I don't know if that's a good news or bad news. Bill said I could mention that, so but I thought I'd throw that in. So McPherson, and we would do the search. Mike and I would be the two assigned to do this search. Who are we? We're a leading national firm. We've completed over 1,000 successful searches since the firm was founded in the early 1990s. We have a network of experienced consultants on whom we rely to help recruit talent. And one of the major things about our background is the sustainability of leadership, and I'll explain that in a moment. One of the things that's important is we're mission driven. We believe every student is entitled to a high quality education because of quality leadership. And our search process is designed to have a result of quality leadership for your district. Also about us, we do not hire superintendents. You do. It's your search. It's your superintendent that you'll be hiring. We represent only boards of directors, and we work strictly for you. We do have people who register with us, and because we're a national firm, we have people who are interested in positions that we will be posting. And we get about 250,000 hits on our website monthly. And once we've posted a position, it will be on our website. We will also send the notice out to people who've registered with us. So we just finished a search and we sent out 2,200 notifications to people who have who are interested in a position, in a similar position for which we had posted. We are recruiters of talent. We make sure we go after people. But the sustainability rate is, I think, one of the most important things about our firm because of our process matching what you want in a superintendent and the qualities and characteristics that we bring, candidates we bring. Almost 85% of the people we've helped place in the last 5 years are still on the job. Almost 60% in the last 10 years are still on the job, and 40% in the past 15 years. And when you contrast that with the average tenure of a superintendent of about 3 years, you can see our process results in that sustainability, which is so important to quality leadership. So what makes us different? Mission driven, like I've already said. We recommend an open, transparent process with high stakeholder involvement, and I'll hit that in a little bit. We have a very thorough and comprehensive process. We are available to you 24/7. You'll have our cell phone numbers, and if we don't answer when you call, we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. We like to meet with each board member prior to at the beginning of the process to get to know you and to get to know your expectations. One of the things is we have a staff, a back office staff of 3 people who are exceptional in supporting our searches to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, to make sure that the support you need and we need to have a successful search are there. As I said, we're a national firm, 120 consultants, just like Mike and I, that are nationwide do we help in our recruiting process. The sustainability, which is very important, and we think that's an important difference. We're committed to equity and diversity with a company equity policy. I know that was in the proposal. We cast that broad net, and we have a guarantee and a price match. We'll match any price with any firm as long as they're doing the same work. And then our guarantee is if the person leaves within the first 2 years for any reason, we'll do the search for free except for expenses like advertising or travel. These are some of the searches we've done within the last, since 2020. And you can see there are 18 of them. I can say I was either led or involved with 15 of them. We just are finished up with Nyssa, which is a similar sized district, a district in far eastern Oregon. We just finished with Willamina in the western Willamette Valley. I presented last night to the Columbia Gorge ESD board. I'm doing that search, even though I'm a board member, I'm doing that search, but I'm doing it pro bono because it would be a conflict of interest for me to do that and be paid. And Mike helped me on vetting some of the candidates. And we're just in the beginning stages of the Rainier School District in the along the Columbia River. But you can see the districts we've done over the last 4 years. And we think you can see that they've ranged as small as Glendale at 281 up to Hillsborough at 20,000. And Mike got to watch the process as he was exiting and retiring from Hillsborough. Our investment would be $12,900, not to exceed. And what would that include? It would include all five phases of the process, and I'll go through that. Posting for 30 days on the American Association of School Administrators. Most superintendents are a member of that. And then we would be the 2 sites in Oregon, COSA and OSBA. Also, we like to use the Washington Association of School Administrators for people who are in Washington and want to relocate to Oregon. Would be 1 day for in-person stakeholder meetings. We like to do them in person so we can talk to people. And those stakeholder meetings are who you help us define, but they're the pretty typical stakeholders: teachers, classified, administrators, district office staff, students, and community. We also have, for those people who want to follow up, we have an online stakeholder input survey that we run as soon as the stakeholder meetings are over. We run it for about a week. We do it both in English and in your case, we would have it in Spanish. We ask the same 4 questions on the survey that we ask in the stakeholder meetings. What are the good things about your area, your general area? What are the good things about the North Marion School District? What are the issues that would be facing the new superintendent? And what are those qualities and characteristics that they want in the new superintendent? We also, once we get down to our what we call our short list, our top candidates, we ask them to do an online interview that we will use as part of our screening and that you will have available for your screening. Once you've selected your finalists, we'll do a criminal, financial, and educational background check on those finalists. And then this also, what these expenses include any travel expenses and our office expenses. Our 5 phases, phase 1, which we would start immediately, we would work with you in on an initial school board meeting to establish the characteristics for the new superintendent. Those characteristics are very important because we use those as part of our advertising. And as we start to evaluate and do reference checks, we will talk to references and about how the candidates meet those characteristics. We will then work with you when we develop interview questions using our bank of questions so that the questions you will be asking around those characteristics. We'll initially, in that first meeting, establish a timeline, define it. We'll also determine advertising venues, and we'll provide for you salary data so you can determine the salary range you want to have out immediately. Then in phase 2, and we like to do these in person stakeholder input meetings. We'll develop the application we will handle and all of the applications on our website, and we'll keep you posted on those as they go through. And then that's the tracking of the applicants. Then we get into the evaluation and reference checking and working with you on developing the interview questions. We have a bank of questions, and we will survey the board on in the various areas which questions you'd like to see asked. Phase 4 is that selecting of the applicants. We'll meet with you to present what we call our short list of applicants, where you'll see all of their materials plus their online interviews. Be the time for you to do the interviews. Depending on what you select, whether it's one candidate a day or multiple candidates in a day, we like to involve stakeholders, basically the same stakeholders groups that we did the input sessions or focus groups. And then we ask those stakeholders to provide input to you. We do it old school. We do it with paper and pencil. And once you've finished an interview with a candidate, we like to give you what those stakeholders had to say about the candidates. And then phase 5, we work with the board and the new superintendent to establish performance objectives. And then we will meet with the superintendent and the school board chair during the year just to see how things are going. Once we've done all 5 phases, our guarantee kicks in. And so that's our process. We do additional services. We don't always attend the final interviews and debriefing, but that we can do that for an additional fee. And you can see some of the other things: update the job description, work on a contract, arrange for the on-site visit to the home community, which we recommend. That's not an additional fee. If you want a brochure, we can do that, or do a personality assessment. Timeline, you have a compressed timeline, but it's very doable. We could start very soon, within the next week, meeting with the board to establish all of the the initial phases, get the job description out, get it advertised, and through the rest of April through May, close the applications, mid-ish May, give ourselves a couple of weeks to do all of our reference checking, because we don't like to bring candidates forward unless we've done a deep dive. And we do what we call a 3 deep. Once we'll look at the references that the people have provided, and then we'll just keep going until we're pretty satisfied we've uncovered anything that might be there. And we'll bring forward to have the interviews, probably beginning to early May or June, and selection by your timeline of June 10th. So we'll be, it's a tight timeline, but I think it's very doable. Again, the investment, not to exceed $12,900. The summary, it's your search. We're the guide on the side. That's a gifted education term, but we're there to work with you. We have a comprehensive process that's adaptable to meet your needs, and we take care of all the time-consuming aspects of the search. And that's going through the applications and doing all the deep diving on the reference checking. We're transparent. We want to keep it as open to the community as possible. You select the criteria because it's your search and it's your decision, and you need to be comfortable with what it is that the qualities and characteristics you want in the new superintendent. We'll provide you that stakeholder input with a comprehensive report. When we did Grants Pass, it was a 75-page report of input from your stakeholders. They don't always go that long. I always use that kind of as an extensive example, but 40 pages you'll get a lot of input. Our online survey, and this goes to one of your questions, an online survey, they're absolutely anonymous. Anything that somebody writes on an online survey, we put into the report, except for profanity, and we redact names. Otherwise, you get exactly what they said in the manner in which they said it. We will actively recruit candidates. We maintain confidentiality of all the applicants until the top 3 or 4 are identified, but we still maintain the confidentiality of the people who were not selected. And then we provide that ongoing support and the guarantee. And why we're different, you've seen this already. Mission-driven, open process, thorough and comprehensive, availability, meet with you individually, our support staff, our consultants are nationwide, that sustainability of leadership, our commitment to quality, equity, and diversity, and our broad net and a guarantee and price match. This is what we believe. Quality education comes from quality leadership, and our search results in quality leadership. I don't know if that was 10 minutes, but I was talking as fast as I could. So I was trying to catch up with the other groups there. So
questions, Kelsey? We're gonna come back to you, maybe? Okay, Jenny?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, that's all right. Merle?
You say you don't eliminate any applicants. Does that mean we get to see the application of all of them?
what our typical process is that when we narrow down to what we call our short list, the top 6, and we will bring to the meeting a meeting with the board, our short list with the full application, the full and our summary of our reference checking. We will also provide to you a list of all the people who have applied, and any of those that we're not bringing forward, we will explain why we're not bringing them forward. We like to do this if the whole board wants to see all the applications, that's fine. We would do it that way. We would probably what we'd like to do is kind of a 3-step process. We do a preview packet of their letter of application, their response to your qualities and characteristics, and their resume. We can do that for all of the applicants if you want to do that. I will tell you, that's your call. It's your search. But we will probably not have gone through and done reference checking on all of them. With Willamina, we had 20 applications. And we honed in on those that we knew better met the qualities and characteristics for the board. But if you want to see all of the applications, the preview package would give you that. We could do that, and you could all see that. But and then we only do the online survey or interviews for what we call our short list, and then the full presentation package for the shortlist people. But I will tell you, I just worked with the Columbia Gorge ESD board last night, And the preview package, they had almost everything they needed and wanted to see, except for our notes on the reference checking. And they also saw we presented 5 applicants, and they saw those online interviews, which they said was very refreshing. And one of our board members happens to have also served on in a neighboring community and on a superintendent search, and he said, I can't believe how much better our process is, the McPherson and Jacobson process, than what that other district had. So I throw that out as a little bit of showmanship about our district. So.
What are the typical number of responses to a search?
In terms of applicants,
Yes.
it'll vary. We did NISA, and if you know where NISA is, it's about as far east as you can go in the state of Oregon. Its boundary is the Snake River, and you cross the Snake River, you're in Idaho. District of about 1,500, we had 10. And that was a little bit isolated. And then you contrast that we were doing this Willamina search at the same time. And we had 20 for Willamina. Willamina was a little bit geographically a little bit more desirable in the Willamette Valley. So I'm, depending on timing and everything else, we had 10 for the Columbia Gorge ESD. So 10 to maybe, you look at the range, 10 to 20, and somewhere in between.
Heidi, do you have questions?
Yes, so who determines the short list? How are those selected? Who does that?
Mike and I. Based upon our reference checking against your criteria.
So you don't have like an initial selection committee or anything like that. That's something you.
Not normally. Because we think this is the board work, and we think you've hired us to do that work.
That's all I had.
Okay, thanks, Heidi. How about you, Crystal?
Yeah, so is there a time that community engagement would be involved? I know you talked about it, stakeholders, but for overall community engagement, where we could see how the applicants would interact in a community public forum?
Well, we engaged community at 2 phases. At the initial stakeholder meeting, we will ask you to identify people you want to make sure are involved in a stakeholder meeting. Same 4 questions. What are the good things about the community? What are the good things about the district? Issues that will be facing the new superintendent, and qualities and characteristics. When we come to a community, I'll be going to Rainier on Thursday. And on Thursday, we'll have a noon community engagement, a 5 o'clock engagement, and a 6 o'clock engagement. Because they have a commuter community, and we try to catch people as we can. During the interview process, on the day of the interview, depending on how we set it up, but on a typical day, I call it running the gauntlet. We'll have them meet with students, we'll have them meet with teachers, we'll have them meet with classified staff, we'll have them meet with administrative staff, and we'll have, and we can do it a couple of different ways. We could have a community, pre-identified community stakeholder group of people you want to make sure are involved, and they could serve as a mini kind of a micro interview. And then we usually always have, we always recommend a Q&A, a broad-based community Q&A that we invite anyone and everyone to come through. We have it moderated, so make sure that the questions being asked are appropriate. So absolute engagement with the community. We ask each one of those stakeholder groups to provide feedback as a group, and then the Q&A we enable. We have an old school process where we ask people to provide their feedback on paper and pencil. We will provide that that will be provided to the board after that person has finished their interview. So you're not influenced by what the stakeholders are, but so you've got your opinion and you've got your thinking, and then you can see how that what the community and the different stakeholder groups are thinking. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Nope.
All right, well, Doug, I really appreciate you joining us. We have obviously three great choices, it looks like, and I appreciate you making the time to be here on short notice, so.
Well, thank you very much. Mike would be here, but he had a previous engagement that his wife said he couldn't miss. So I'll leave it at that. But yes, Mike and I'd be very honored and very privileged to work with you to conduct this search to find your next superintendent, to provide that quality leadership for the students of North Marion.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Take care.
Thank you, and I'll quit.
Thank
I'll
you.
get out of here and let you, and you're, if I read your proposal correctly, you'll be making the decision tomorrow. Is that correct? Or are you going to make it this afternoon?
It sort of depends if my board's ready to make it this afternoon. If they're ready to make it, we may have a decision this afternoon. If not, we'll ponder a little bit overnight and then we'll have it to you, or we'll have it tomorrow, so.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Good to see you, Bill. Take
All
care.
right, take care.
Bye.
We didn't notice it.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, so we may have to.
After 45 years,
Yeah.
that most of it.
I guess I should.
But I
don't know those
Oh, really?
All right, anybody got thoughts?
Oh, really? So two different of these firms have worked with you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Heidi.
I see. See.
I saw on the agenda OSBA, is their hat in the ring or not? I wasn't clear.
They are not in making a presentation. When Crystal and I met with Linda, we opted to go with just 3. There was a couple factors in that decision. One being that they sort of wanted to alter the RFP. And so I didn't know if performance might be an issue there. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. It was just a concern that there may be a performance issue though. Making you hot palpitations. I know. And so we opted for, to go forward with these 3 candidates, but it's not my decision, it's the board's decision, so, but.
Well, I would say about that it stood out to me only because the thought went through my mind ahead of time as I was looking at these other firms, and OSBA was the last one I looked at, their literature, and it had gone through my mind, well, is it possible that we either, 2 of the things they mentioned, one was interim, the other was that we go on our own, which is a little hard to imagine, but they were saying, I suppose you read it, that we could support you in that. So I thought, well, they gave us their counsel. I don't know how motivated, what motivated it, but they gave us their counsel. I should at least hear it, whether we agree with it or not.
Yeah, I read it too. I read all of them.
And what would you say?
I agree that they should not be included in
Okay,
in the 3 that we would consider.
seem a little more presumptuous to say, we don't think you should do this, you should do this.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Heidi?
Yeah, I just wasn't clear.
Yep.
So can you outline the process? Maybe you guys have talked about it, but I'm not clear on exactly what we're doing today and how we're proceeding. And
So if we can proceed, if this body wants to make a decision and move forward, time is of the essence. So if we don't make a decision today, it's coming. I mean, we need to make a decision
fairly quickly, you know, as to which direction we're gonna go, just because the timeline it's expedited. I reached out on references. I did not reach out over the weekend. I reached out yesterday. I didn't have a lot of luck. I am still waiting back for phone calls and emails, honestly,
Oh, references on these.
on from some other board members who had been through. I tried to pick out similar size,
Yeah,
maybe some expedited, but again, I just didn't have a lot of luck in getting that. Part of it, it's a short schedule, so.
mhm.
I do want to say, from my opinion, I really want community involvement. I want to see how the person engages in our community. I really love like an anonymous survey that goes out to everybody. So there's equality amongst that, where everybody has an opportunity to chime in, even people who may not hit the docket of people we typically speak to. I love that the board chooses the screening team and that the board members are interviewed first as elected officials. I also want to make sure that we have a bilingual survey and that we can definitely connect with that part of our community. I'm looking at some of my other points. I am going to be really a stickler on transparent process. I think the more people who have a piece of the pie, the better our superintendent is going to be supported community-wide. So those are some things that I was taking away and looking at. I do like breakthrough. I do also like the human capital. They're a little bit more expensive. I think McPherson would do great. I'm a little hesitant. It seems like they do a lot of our lists, and I really want a chunk of ownership with that as board. I think this is like one of our critical roles. So that'll just be my starting off on the topic conversation. You guys can jump in.
I agree with what Crystal said. I think human capital and breakthrough consulting, I like their focus on community involvement, and I think that's really important. Yeah, I do like breakthroughs, menu-based approach, so we can kind of help control the costs a lot more, whereas human capital had a lot of like, well, there's this, but it's an extra charge or it's an extra fee. So
I'll just chime in and say their breakthrough is the one that resonated with me from going over these earlier. If that really covers some of those bases, that I think too, community involvement and input is important. It's a chance we rarely get to receive there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm brave enough to move on this, but that's what resonated with me.
what do you think, Glenn?
I was and I don't want to put anybody into the bus. I was a little unimpressed with the presentation from Breakthrough today. I thought there was a little bit of, oh, your community has, there are some Spanish speaking. Sorry, that really wasn't what I wanted to hear out of that presentation. Don't get me wrong, it'd be a very, maybe a very good search firm, but it seemed a little unprofessional. And so that worries me a little bit. I would agree with you. I mean, to me, it's I really liked Human. I liked their kind of their approach, just their sort of their way of thinking about it.
Very put together.
The process they wanted to put into place. But it's not my decision. But those are some,
You're
those are
14% of the decision.
those are some of the, those are some of the thoughts that I had.
And one further comment that I noticed that the North Bend School District in 2018, McPherson did the search. when they needed help again, they went with Breakthrough. I don't know that the. I mean,
What school
that's
district was that?
circumstantial evidence only.
North Bend.
Which? North
Yeah.
Bend?
Yeah.
I will say that, I liked human capital. For me, what I feel is important is a company that's going to be there with us in person and guiding us. You know, when we all get together and we're in a room, having somebody who can really help guide us in the process, I found is invaluable. People who have experience, who can understand what we need exactly in our district. I liked what Human Capital said about the way they have their focus groups. I just got a good feeling from them. They seem to have a good timeline. You know, again, knowing who's going to determine those final 5 or so that are interviewed is kind of a big deal for me. Like, I think like Crystal said,
Mhm.
you know, so I just want to make sure the board is involved in that process, or that we have an option if we need to get from that. Personally, I liked Human Capital, and I liked McPherson and Jacobson. I like the guarantee that they offer. Sometimes you do need someone who's willing to follow through that year after of the appointment with questions or help you may need. And that was the only firm that indicated they kind of did that follow through. On the other hand, you know, it might be good to have them help us determining a short list, but I can go either way on that one. But I liked the vibe. I honestly didn't care for what I saw through Breakthrough. It didn't seem very personal to me. And I just, yeah. So I like Human and Capital and McPherson and Jacobson.
Did Human Capital say if they would do, I didn't write it down even though it was on my list, if they would do a community survey in bilingual, and if they had the opportunity to do it anonymously?
I
I'm
think
not
they did say.
Diane, go ahead, Diane.
Yes, they do a community engagement with all, but they're gonna start with school boards selection, you know, the different groups are classified. And to address the bilingual, I've been through 4 superintendents in this process 4 times. So community engagement is always at the very top of the list, always. I see that in all 3 of these proposals. Whether it didn't get spoken strong enough, it's there. The bilingual piece of it, even though they would provide a survey, whether it's 4 questions, 5 questions, we're so used to doing that here. We would probably have our bilingual translators vet it because our community, I mean, it's not Google Translate. We have to tweak it.
Yeah.
So that's not,
Right.
yeah. So that would be part of the course for any crews as well. Human Capital did say that they would, community engagement was a big piece of it. In fact, I think it was Christy Perry that was speaking to that.
Diane, can I ask, you just mentioned you've been through 4 superintendent searches. Have we used a consulting firm before? And who have we used in the past? Can you?
We've used OSBA in the past, we've used. Oh,
None of these.
OSBA.
no, there was correct, but there was another one, it was another guy, can't think of his name.
Was it Northwest Leadership Associates
so.
back? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
But having said that, I think I would also include that. They do come and they do work very hard. And you see all applicants and they're spot on with 10 to 20. In fact, I remember when we hired Boyd Kaiser, there was over 20. And the board saw every single one of them. So the transparency is there. There's nothing not to be transparent without, to your listening group. I like the anonymous survey. It's gonna give some groups, a voice if we can get them to take the survey. But ultimately, you have to listen to your community, so it's very important, and I see that in all three.
I think I made notes on the right presenter that they would do bilingual breakthrough and they would allow anonymous surveys. Did your notes confirm that?
I would be interested in hearing Bill's input. He's very experienced. He's been around a lot of superintendent selections, and what does he think are important criteria as we look at?
I think you're kind of hitting on it. Some of it is just the sense you get, you know what I mean, of the presentations compared to the proposals and those types of things. I know all of the presenters very well. And so, but what I think about them and those types of things don't matter. I think, when we talk about familiarity with a particular community, when I think about Salem Kaiser, their demographic is very similar to ours, even though they're larger, their demographic is very similar to ours. And so I know Christy Perry knows, multilingual, multicultural communities, and how to interact with those. I'm not as familiar with Steve. I know McPherson has been in business for a long, long time, as has Human Capital. So they're the most experienced groups. Breakthrough is newer, in the process, doesn't make them, better or worse or anything like that, but they've got probably less of a resume. So those are, whether you think about those things or experience in those areas. One of the things to think about, and it just made me think about, this is just doesn't pertain to anything in particular, is that there's a balance between transparency and confidentiality for applicants in this process. And so if you've got sitting superintendents, and if you're interested in attracting sitting superintendents, that first cut is kind of important. So if there's a possibility that it's going to leak out, if they haven't had that conversation with their board, and there's a possibility it's going to leak out, that they're looking for positions, it's a way to kind of, it really undermines the possibility, of a sitting superintendent and their relationship with the board and their staff and things like that. So that's why you hear a little bit of that notion, maybe with Doug and Mike's, thing about, trying to keep a tight circle, in that very first cut. Superintendents know that when you get down to the 5 or 6 or 7, that's going to be more transparent of a process. But usually when you have that selection committee, there's usually a process of, you've got like a $10,000 fine if you break confidentiality on this and you sign your life away, because that's how important it is to the career of those superintendents in that first, out of that 10 or 20, there's only going to be 5 or 6, and you don't want to interfere with the leadership of the others in those places. So
I saw that in their resume. I can see that's important because they don't want people to know they're applying for another job. So I would agree, and we need to, I guess, receive that too, so that we don't, other than the very finalists, it seems to me, then it's open, but any of the others here, we wouldn't. I would say too that I don't think it sways me a lot, but it's hard to get away from the difference between an in-person presentation and a virtual, and
Yeah.
as the old proverb says, the first person that speaks in court seems right until another comes and searches them out. And so I have to try to get my mind thinking another way, because it was a warm presentation and I was receptive to it in person. But
Yeah.
I don't want to let that one factor sway my thinking.
I will say,
Toward the breakthrough people, I think.
Go ahead, Chris.
I will say that we really do need to be aware of the confidentiality regardless of our candidates that throw their hat in the ring. I've been in several positions where I've thrown my hat in the ring and then decided at a later date that that wasn't where I wanted to go. And if they would have released it, it could have probably prevented me from getting another employment. So we just really do need to make that commitment when and make that aware to whoever is selected that we want to honor that as a confidentiality.
I have seen as part of the process that anyone that's on that type of selection committee has to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Mhm.
Perfect.
That's probably very appropriate.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about this, but my opinion about the financial side of it. I felt like all the firms were close enough in range that it really, for me, price would not be the highest priority. It was a lower priority. I'm more interested in attracting and using the best group that fits our needs, as opposed to just trying to get, you know, the lowest bottom line dollar.
Yeah, I came in, and I had read through all of them prior and I had really liked Breakthrough. And then coming here today, I too wasn't so impressed with his, presentation. But, I seconded, I like, human capital. That's my 2 cents. No, they are, I mean, you just mentioned price, I feel like they're a lot higher. Almost 20 grand compared to the other two, but I don't know, do we have a budget or like, I don't know.
I'm not so sure so much as a budget. I'm kind of in line with Heidi. I don't know. I mean, the disparity between them isn't so great that that's probably not the biggest factor for me. I'm sort of a little bit like Merle. I appreciate somebody showing up in person. I really did, and that doesn't mean that they're better, but it makes a different impression. And I also, they were asked specifically about North Marion, and they didn't shy away from answering it, which means they have done a little bit of, of their homework.
Yeah.
The other ones were not asked specifically that question. I would have been interested, probably didn't.
I mean, I would hope that all companies would have done their homework on us, just like I did all of my homework on them, not just the proposals, but I'm doing that deep dive, search, seeing who they've placed, how long they've been there, what kind of issues are with each company. And that's why I would be ready to make a motion today.
Well, I'm not opposed.
Okay, I would make a motion that we accept Breakthrough Consulting as our superintendent search firm.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I will not be supporting Breakthrough. I would support either of the other two.
Most of them for.
I know, she was doing discussion, so. Any other discussion?
I'm not voting. I'm just telling you my opinion.
Sure. I think I'll do a roll call then. So if you're in favor, it's an aye vote. If you're opposed to that motion, then it's a nay vote. Go ahead, Kelsey. Or I can come back to you. Jenny?
Aye.
Merle?
Aye.
Heidi,
No,
Crystal,
Aye.
got my notes to myself here. I'm a no vote. So it comes down to you.
Pressure. Um. Aye.
Okay,
so Glenn, can I ask a procedural question?
sure.
Is it possible to make a motion for another firm in the, could people be voting aye for multiple firms or not?
the motion was not crafted that way. The motion was for this firm. And the motion does have a majority. So it's gotta be, 3 is not a majority, 4 is a majority.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that we won't have a unanimous selection on this, but okay.
Heidi, would sleeping on it change anything?
Well, we already have a motion and that was contractually. So
Okay.
I'm not sure that there's coming back from that, because that motion is carried.
Okay.
So, sorry, is that accurate?
If you want that motion to carry.
Yeah, well, there's 4 votes, so it's a majority. So, okay.
Well, can I make a motion that we vote for another firm also? It doesn't matter at this point, I guess nobody's gonna back it, so
But there can be more than one motion.
What's that?
There could be more than one motion.
You can make a motion, Heidi, we're still we're still meeting,
I think you just selected a search firm. now.
I do too, I think contractually we selected a search firm and I think,
So you have to really think if you're gonna make another motion, what it would be.
yeah,
We have to totally undo.
that's my worry, Heidi, is this deals with contractual and with money and there already was a majority vote for it, so I don't get me wrong, I voted with you, I I understand, but that's, that's just part of it, so.
Sold out.
So is there any other business that needs to come before us? All right, so I will go ahead and gavel us down at 2:45.